All right, well, welcome back to the channel. Um, sometimes I get into politics in this channel. A lot of times I just try to stay away from it because it's not a political channel. However, there are some things that I believe as Christians that we need to be involved in when it comes to politics. And people are going to, I already know that I'm going to catch backlash on this. I mean, I guess it depends on how many people watch this video. But people will say that separation of church and state. That means that the government does not get involved in the churches. It does not mean that the churches or religious people cannot be involved in the government, because churches and religious people should be involved in the government. Because generally speaking, the majority of Christians and church organizations have some kind of a moral standard. Now, the true moral standard is God's standard, not something that we made up. But morally speaking, churches need to be involved in government. And the whole reason that I'm making this video right now is because of a tweet. I really sometimes I feel like I needed to stay off social media because it irritates me. 4 hours ago, our illustrious, ignorant Vice President Kamala Harris tweeted, "One does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree that the government should not tell a woman what to do with her body." Okay, you know what? I agree with that. But the government needs to get out of all of our lives. Why doesn't the government get out of my pocket and stop telling me that I have to pay taxes on everything that I do with money? When I make money, when I spend money, if somebody gifts me money, I have to pay taxes on it. Why don't you worry about getting out of my pocket? And how come you don't hold this same standard when it comes to things like vaccines? It's my body, so it's my choice, unless it comes to the vaccine. When it comes to murdering babies, it's just do whatever makes you happy, do whatever feels good. Government shouldn't be involved in that. Murder is murder. Okay, so that's already a law that's on the books. Murder is murder. If you kill someone, you are going to be convicted of, at the minimum, manslaughter. You're driving down the road and you're speeding and you get into a wreck and you kill someone, vehicular manslaughter. You walk into a room, pull a gun out, blow somebody's head off, murder. These are things that are already illegal, right? If you kill a pregnant woman and the baby dies, that is a double homicide. If the pregnant woman gives birth and you walk into the maternity ward and stab that baby in the heart and kill it, it's murder. So why is there a double standard? Why is it suddenly not murder just because it's her choice? You know, it's not her choice. She made the choice, and so did he, when y'all chose to have sex. I don't know who needs a biology lesson here, but I'm pretty sure that everybody that would be watching this video knows where babies come from. Pregnancy is 100% preventable. Therefore, abortion is 100% preventable. You don't want to have a baby? Don't have sex. It's that simple. Contraceptives are only 99% effective. Cool. Don't have sex and you take care of all 100% of them. Abstinence. If we didn't have abstinence, we wouldn't have the need for abortion. Or if we had abstinence, we wouldn't have the need for abortion. Because people would be married when they're having sex and therefore wanting children. We wouldn't have the STD problem. Incurable STDs. There's not medications for a lot of the things that are floating around out there right now. We would just solve all that problem with abstinence if people would just stop doing whatever makes them feel good now and pleasuring themselves now. We would solve this problem. There wouldn't be an issue if people would stop having sex outside of marriage. And you can argue with me all you want on this. We all know where babies come from, and we all know the answer to the problem. If you don't want a baby, don't have sex. If you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. It's that simple. You should expect that if you're having sex, that there is a possibility that there is going to be a baby being made. Now, as Christians, you need to stand up. How to stand up? I'm not going to tell you how to stand up. I don't have an answer to that question. because you're going to catch backlash on it. You're going to make people upset. very upset by standing up. Which it just astounds me that people are upset that you're standing up for the rights of the baby. What about the right of the baby? Who doesn't have rights because he's not born? It's its own body. At the moment of conception, it is no longer your body. It might be inside your body, but it is not your body. Make the choice with your body before the baby is conceived. After that, it's got its own DNA. It will have its own heartbeat. It'll have its own blood type. It will grow, and it will be independent. But it depends on me to live. So do babies that are born. For many years, they're dependent on you. Should we just be able to kill them too? I know a lot of adults that are dependent on their parents still. Should we kill them because they're dependent on their parents? That's the most ridiculous, asinine thing that I've ever heard of. Just because it's dependent on you means that you have the right to choose whether it lives or dies. It's not the baby's fault that you did that. It's your decision, and abortion is nothing more than an attempt to shirk the responsibility for the actions that you have made. And if you're a Christian, you need to stand up and fight against this. If you are somehow agreeing that abortion is okay, I very highly doubt and would question your salvation, your so-called status as a Christian, because it would be virtually impossible. It's not would be. I think it is virtually impossible for you to be a Christian, say that you follow God, that you put your faith in God, and say that it is okay to murder a baby. It goes completely against God's word. Whether the word abortion is used or not in the Bible is irrelevant. God is very clear on how he feels about babies, the unborn, and murder. Jeremiah 1:5, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I sanctified you. I ordained you a prophet to the nations. Granted, in this moment, he is speaking of Jeremiah. But before he was formed in the womb, God knew him. Why? Because in Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 and 27, and then in Genesis chapter 9, verse 6, God says what happens, or God says how we're made. Genesis 1, 26 and 27, then God said, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So God created man in his image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female. Male and female, not one of the other however many genders there are now. Male and female, he created them in his image. He created them. So when you murder a baby, when you have an abortion, you are murdering a being, a human being, created in God's image. How do you think he's gonna take that? You can believe whether there's a heaven or hell or not, but just because you don't believe it doesn't make it any less true. There is countless evidence for God's existence, for his death and resurrection, for Jesus' death and resurrection on the cross. It's a denial. And denying it doesn't make it any less true. You can say that you don't believe that I made this video right now, but the fact that it's right here makes it true, whether you believe it or not. Genesis 9:6, whoever sheds man's blood, by man his blood shall be shed. For in the image of God he made men. God is calling you a murderer right here without saying the words. If you shed a man's blood, then your blood shall be shed. You are guilty of death, or you are guilty of a crime punishable by death, because we were made in the image of God. God made man in his image. Psalm 139, 13 through 16, verse 13. For you formed my inward parts, you covered me in my mother's womb. Verse 14, I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and that my soul knows you very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in secret, and skillfully wrought in the lowest parts of the earth. Verse 16, your eyes saw my substance being yet unformed, And in your book they all were written, the days fashioned for me, when as yet there was none of them. God knows you before you were born. The days are written in the book before you are born. Your whole life, he already knows your whole life, the actions that you're going to take from before you're even born. We are made in God's image. And we can see here in Exodus chapter 21, God makes it very clear that if you murder a baby, specifically an unborn baby, you are guilty of the same punishment as someone is alive. So it doesn't matter whether you think it's your choice, okay, or if somebody comes up and murders you while you're pregnant and your baby dies as well. And while we're thinking about that real quick, as we're getting ready to read this, how come it's a living being if you want it, but if you don't want it, then it's just a clump of cells? I mean, we're all just clumps of cells. But how come it's a human being? How come it has value if you want it, but when you don't want it, it has no value? It's useless, it's worthless, let's just kill it. Seems like a pretty ridiculous double standard. Exodus chapter 21, verses 22 through 25. If men fight and hurt a woman with a child, so that she gives birth prematurely, yet no harm follows, he shall surely be punished accordingly as the woman's husband imposes on him, and he shall pay as the judge determines. But if any harm follows, if there's any harm to the baby, if any harm follows, then you shall give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, stripe for stripe. If harm follows in the birth of the baby, God lays out what should happen here. You should receive the same punishment as man should receive. The punishment is death. Abortion is murder. And it doesn't matter whether you want to believe that it's just a clump of cells, that you should be able to kill it because it depends on you. That's an ignorant statement. Those are both ignorant statements. Just because you don't want it, because it's inconvenient for you, none of those are excuses for abortion. And if you want to bring up the medical side of abortion, first of all, there's such a small fraction of abortions that require, or of medical emergencies that require an abortion, that it's not even worth mentioning. And anything else can, most of the time, be remedied by an early delivery and a C-section. And I know about medical emergencies. Placenta previa, abruptio placenta, eclampsia, preeclampsia, high blood pressure caused by the pregnancy. Gestational diabetes. Well, gestational diabetes and the blood pressure, the eclampsia, they're not life-threatening unless the eclampsia turns into seizures. Those are all things that can be managed, not worth killing the baby for. Medical procedures can be done to prevent harm to the mother and the baby on placenta previa and abruptio placenta. They're not worth killing the baby. Who are you to decide that suddenly it's okay to murder a baby? Because then where does it stop? They're already pushing. The vice president and the president are already pushing for legislation. And I live in the state of New Mexico, and our governor is doing it too, pushing for legislature to allow abortion up to the minute of birth. You are, at that point, your argument of it's not a human being goes completely out the window, because if you take that baby out right there before the minute of birth, it will live. It's going to have to be cared for just like any other baby. So that argument's irrelevant. Well, we have to take care of it. If it's in my body, it's dependent on you. Well, it's dependent on you when it's born too. That baby, minutes before its birth, can survive. It is a human being. You can't even argue that. Now, we're just saying we're going to kill the baby. So at what point does it stop? Well, the baby was born and it came out, and I don't know, I had a green eye and a blue eye, and I don't like that, so let's go ahead and kill it. Came out with 6 fingers and 6 toes on each hand or foot. Has 2 thumbs on each hand, 2 toes on each foot. I don't like that deformity. Let's kill it. There's tests that they can do that say that whether your baby may have autism or not. Well, let's go ahead and kill it. I don't want to have a baby that's autistic. You are killing a baby, a human being, made in God's image. And there will be a punishment for it. There will be a punishment for every sin. And you're not going to get away scot-free just because you use human logic and make it up in your head that it's not a human being and that it's not murder, because it is. Our laws are not God's laws, and God's laws are not our laws. God's laws are just. Ours are man-made. And next to God's laws, our laws are useless and irrelevant. If you're a Christian, you need to stand up. If you're not a Christian, you need to pray. Especially if you're a person considering having an abortion. You will live with that for the rest of your life, knowing that you could have had a baby. You will live with that guilt, knowing that you took an innocent life. The same way that you would live with the guilt if you were driving your kid to school and you got in a car wreck because you were texting and driving and you killed your kid. Same guilt. You would feel horrible about it. People walk out of abortion clinics all happy because they had an abortion. Give it some time. Let it sink in. That conviction, that's God convicting you. Satan's condemning you while at the same time praising you, but God's convicting you. So if you're considering it, pray about it. And to you, Kamala Harris, you're worried about abortion? You're worried about the government being involved in everything? Get out of my life. Get out of my bank account. Don't worry about my finances. Stop trying to tax everybody. Get out of your stupid green energy deals. Green energy is stupid. We depend on oil and coal, period. Wind energy is a fallacy. Solar energy is a fallacy. Does it work? Sure. All of those things fail. And all of them require petroleum. Your car runs on petroleum. Whether it's in the gas tank or it's in the engine to keep it lubricated. You think we're going to get away from fossil fuels? No. There's no way. There's not enough real estate in this country to put up enough solar panels and wind farms to power this country. The state of California already has rolling blackouts in the summer because they don't have enough power, and we're supposed to run off of electricity? That's just asinine. Stop controlling people's lives, Kamala and Joe. Telling them that they have to buy an electric vehicle, that they have to give you money because somebody gave them money, that they have to give you money because they're spending. You're getting taxed twice. Taxed when I make it and taxed when I spend it, and that's outrageous. Telling me that I have to get a vaccine? Well, you can kiss my butt. You can kiss the lower part of my back and the upside of my legs. What makes you think that you have the control over my life over that? But that the government shouldn't be involved in something else. The government shouldn't be involved in anything. The government is responsible for the orchestration of running the country, fixing the roads, keeping the infrastructure going, roads, railroads, electric, sewers, water. What I do in my house, with my family, or with my money is my business. And if I choose to worship God, that's my business too. See, you want to be removing the government from certain parts of people's lives, but we need to be involved in other parts. For Christians, How dare you try to have a Bible study at school? How dare you pray with your friends while you're at school? That's a heinous crime these days. It's the one thing that should be allowed. We're allowing teenagers to go out and have abortions without their parents knowing because they're having sex at an extremely young age when they have no idea what they're doing in life. And they're murdering babies. And they're being coached and encouraged to do so. But your kids can't pray at school. Your kids can't take their Bible to school and read it. They can't have a Bible study at school. And this is just about as ridiculous as it gets. The double standard is outrageous. So Christians, if you watch this video, if you made it through this video, pray and act. And if you're not a Christian, hate me or love me, I really don't care. But the truth is, when it comes to everything else, the only thing in this world that matters is God. Money doesn't matter. The government doesn't matter. God is going to judge all of us for the things that we've done in our lives. And it's our responsibility to stand up for those that can't. To protect the innocent. Not to murder them for convenience. I'm done ranting. Before I get super irritated and upset. Check out my podcast. I'm going to be posting a series. They're going to be on YouTube, and I've got to get some stuff off my podcast channel over to YouTube as well. But I'm posting on YouTube, and I'm going to be putting them on my podcast. But it's my series called A Nugget from Scripture. It's generally speaking where I go through and just something that I read in my daily life, or something that's come up several times, and so I just feel like the Lord's speaking to me, and it's more for me than anything. But I'm sharing what's going on in my mind and my thought process and in the verses, hoping that it will reach somebody else as well, hoping that it can be beneficial to someone else. But I am going to be doing a series. In that series, it's kind of out of the norm for what I designed the series for, and I'm going to be going back to the basics and going down the Romans road to salvation. So if you're already a Christian, I encourage you to go back and follow on the Romans road to salvation. I started in Ephesians, simply talking about grace and faith, and that is the way to salvation. And we'll be going down the next episode. We'll be taking this path down the Romans road, and there will be another 4 or 5 episodes of that, and I'll probably put some other things in between. New Thirst Addiction Ministry, because this is an addiction channel. This is what this was created for. I have all the videos up through chapter 3 on YouTube. The curriculum is on my website, www.soberforchrist.com. You can find the videos there. You can find the curriculum there so that you can print them off, follow along. And I release a new video every Sunday. And if you or someone you know needs prayer, email me. I'll put the information in the contact information in the description. If you need a Bible, a paper Bible, I believe that everyone should have a paper Bible that wants one, because these electronic devices, they will fail, they can be manipulated, and they are full of distractions with notifications. So if you or someone you know would like a paper Bible, I will send you one free of charge. Anyway, that's it for this this video, this episode, whatever you want to call it. Remember that it's not what we think or feel is right that we should do. It's what God says is right that we should do. God's laws and God's commandments trump anything that man has ever made. Just because man says it's right does not make it right. So stay grounded, stay in the Word, and until next time, God bless.